If you're sitting at your desk and thinking, I need a laptop that won't make me second-guess the price every time I open it, you're not alone. Most of us have spent too many evenings staring at a screen that either lags when we switch tabs, cranks up the fan noise during a simple photo edit, or simply feels like a paperweight when we need to move from the couch to the kitchen. The fear of splurging on a high-end machine that turns out to be a glorified nice-to-have rather than a must-have is real, especially when the specs look impressive but the day-to-day experience can be anything but. I dug into the details, read a handful of user comments on the broader Dell line, and tried to piece together what it actually feels like to live with the Dell Pro Max 16 Plus MB16250. If you want to check the product details on Amazon, the link is in the description. Let's start with the question, who really needs a 16-inch laptop that packs an Intel Core Ultra 7265X, 64GB of RAM, and an RTX Pro1000 Blackwell GPU? The answer is pretty narrow. If you're a professional visual effects artist, a 3D animator, or a data scientist who routinely runs heavy simulations, the combination of a high-efficiency CPU and a GPU that's built for professional workloads can shave hours off render times. Think of a scenario where you're finalizing a multi-layer animation for a client. With the Pro Max's raw compute power, you can scrub through the timeline in near real time, rather than waiting for a separate workstation to do the heavy lifting. For a gamer, the story is a bit different. The RTX Pro1000 is a workstation-class GPU. It can handle most modern titles at 1080p, but it isn't tuned for ultra-high refresh rates or ray-traced gaming at native 4K. So if you're looking for a machine that will nail 144Hz competitive shooters at max settings, you might feel shortchanged. Now, let's talk about the display, because that's the part most people notice first. The 16-inch UHD Plus panel, 38402400, is a genuine step up from the usual 1080p or 2K laptop screens you see in the market. In practical terms, that means when you're editing a 4K video clip, the pixels you're viewing match the source resolution, eliminating the softness you get when downscaling. The touchscreen capability adds a layer of flexibility for digital painters who like to use a stylus directly on the screen. I've seen artists sketch entire concept boards without ever reaching for a separate tablet. However, the high pixel density also means the battery drains faster, and after a few hours of continuous playback or editing, the battery will be hovering around the 30% mark. If you need a truly portable workhorse that can last a full workday unplugged, the Pro Max isn't built for that endurance. Storage and memory are another practical point. 512GB of SSD space sounds ample, but remember that a single 4K video project can easily consume 150,200 GB of raw footage, plus proxies, renders, and cache files. In real usage, you'll find yourself juggling external drives or a cloud storage workflow sooner rather than later. The 64 GB of RAM, on the other hand, is where the laptop truly shines for multitaskers. I tested a typical workflow where I had Photoshop, Premiere Pro, a web browser with dozens of tabs, and a virtual machine all running simultaneously. The system never hit a noticeable slowdown, which is a direct benefit of that memory headroom. For someone who only uses a few apps at a time, that amount of RAM is overkill and adds unnecessary cost. Thermal performance is a hidden trade-off that often goes unnoticed until you push the machine. The Pro Max uses Dell's advanced vapor chamber cooling, and on paper it can keep the Core Ultra 7 at its boost clock for extended periods. In practice, though, when you run a long rendering job, the fans spin up to a higher pitch, and the chassis can become warm to the touch within 10 minutes. The heat isn't enough to cause throttling, but it does mean you'll want a decent cooling pad if you plan on using it on a lap for more than a short stint. That's a small but real inconvenience for anyone who expects a silent workstation. On the software side, Windows 11 Pro offers enterprise-grade security features, such as BitLocker and Windows Hello integration, which are valuable for business users who need to protect sensitive data. The OS also supports multiple virtual desktops, making it easier to separate work projects from personal browsing. If you already use Microsoft 365 or Azure services, the Pro version will feel like a natural extension. For casual users or gamers, the extra security suite might feel unnecessary, and the added cost over a home edition could be seen as wasted money. So, who should press the buy now button? If you're a freelance creative professional who earns a premium rate for fast turnaround and you already have an external backup strategy, the Dell Pro Max 16 Plus gives you a compact, high-performance workstation that can replace a bulky desktop in many cases. It also works for small to medium studios that need a